The Memphis Police Department unit that's responsible for the beating death of 29-year-old Tyre Nichols was part of a division that operated with an annual budget of more than $28 million a year from the time of its creation in 2021 till it was disbanded over the weekend. This is according to reporting from Akela Lacy in the Intercept.
The Street Crimes Operation to Restore Peace in Our Neighborhoods, or Scorpion Unit, follows a trend in policing in which highly armed groups of officers are dispatched to high-crime areas that tend to be home to Black and brown residents. Here to break down more of a reporting on the matter is politics reporter for the Intercept, Akela Lacy. Akela, welcome to Rising.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So we see that number, 28 million. It's incredible. Can you talk about what the intended goals of this kind of a unit are and how widespread the creation of these units have been across the country?
Yeah, so this unit was officially launched in November 2021 in response to both protests against police brutality in 2020 and also a spike in homicides in Memphis and in other cities around the country. This unit was specifically supposed to target, you mentioned these quote unquote hotspot crime areas where they would use data on crime to, figure out where to dispatch officers. The intention of the unit is to crack down on violent crimes. We know that this unit was doing a traffic stop at the time, which apparently it started doing more of because of budget constraints in different areas, which I haven't reported a lot on that, but found out a little bit more about that after the story came out. But yeah, these types of units have been popping up all across the country. One such unit was also responsible for the raid that killed Breonna Taylor in 2020, a similar sort of, crime reduction strategy in Louisville there, where they launched this unit. And the trend, in Memphis and in the Louisville unit was that these officers don't necessarily have, specialized training to do sort of the mission that these units are set out to do, and they're also subject to special funding. This particular unit in Memphis is part of a broader special operations division that got $28 million, and now it's obviously been disbanded over the weekend.
Yeah, in your article for The Intercept, you said that a former cop said the training consists of 3 days of PowerPoint presentations, 1 day of training in suspect apprehension, and then 1 day at a firing range. I think, if people, to sort of steelman the case for spending more money on specialized law enforcement in high crime areas, you would want the best trained police officers, the ones who have the most experience defusing tense and potentially violent situations without them getting out of hand, not like the newest guys, the most rookie people being thrown into the most potentially criminal or violent or messy situations, but that appears to be what you have. Can you speak to more of like what the philosophy was behind the training?
Yeah, so this was that bit of reporting was actually from a former Memphis cop who spoke to CBS News, and so we included that in our reporting. But basically, that person, according to that source, they said that because a lot of older officers were retiring on this force in Memphis, they were manning this special unit with younger officers with little training, which, we can speculate as to sort of the philosophy here. I didn't hear back from the police department, but, there's been talk, from police departments about sort of morale issues, how they're trying to, combat the number of people who have been quitting police forces since 2020 protests. And, I can speculate and say that it seems like, the reason that this unit didn't have, what we would consider to be specialized training for its particular mandate has to do with staffing issues and also with, what the police are saying is a morale issue. But, to your point, that a reason to, give additional money to this unit that clearly, it didn't do what it was set out to do, to the point where it's been closed down less than 2 years after it was.
Well, and if you're going to give additional money, why not spend it on recruiting or retaining the best performing officers or the ones with the best track record of not escalating standoffs and situations, pay them more and better, rather than what it sounds like it was spent on, which is like neater gear. I mean, by neater gear, I mean more like militarized gear, and then just throwing the kind of hothead new guys at the problem, which seems like an absolute recipe for disaster.
Well,
yeah. Go ahead, Bree. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, Robbie, I mean, part of what you're describing here is this fundamentally skewed matchup between stated goals and actual behavior. And frankly, a failure to, I think, properly define goals and design a program to meet those goals. So what you're seeing is people who are engaged in a traffic stop. I really don't want to lose sight of the specific instance that brought us here today to talk about it. There has, as of yet, there's been no clarification of what Tyre was allegedly doing. They've claimed it was erratic driving, but that is an incredibly inspecific charge. He was not armed. He had no criminal record. There's no accusation of there being a taillight out or anything else that would motivate a stop. Moreover, this is a unit that's been given an incredible amount of funding. 39% of this entire city's budget is going to this police effort, and they're being tasked with traffic stops. Is this what funding the police harder is intended to do? Pull people on the side of the road and then create these situations where there's a standoff between a militarized police force and an individual who is minding their own business that is kind of bound to go wrong? I mean, this is what's really confusing to me, Akela. What is, you give someone SWAT gear, you give someone, special equipment, you give someone increased funding, you send them, put them in a patrol car in a pack, and you send them out into the world without a goal, without tracking down the specific, here's drug dealers that are running this scheme, et cetera, et cetera. They're just out there. I mean, help us. I'm really struggling to understand how this was at all designed to have any outcome other than the tragic outcome that we saw with Tyre Nichols.
Well, I'll make 2 points. One, I mean, to your point, this was the response to protests for police reform, right? This was the response to, what happened in 2020, and also the part of that response that included an increase in homicides during the pandemic. So, I mean, the police chief, when she was, presenting a budget proposal to the city council back in May, discussed how effective this unit had been. The police department touted that this unit had made, more than 500 arrests, in its first year. And so it's pretty clear that the metrics that the police department was going by for success here was, can we arrest as many people as possible to give the perception that we're doing something about, crime, and we're doing something about people's concerns. And yes, to the point about, we still don't really understand why they were making the traffic stop or what, if any, pretext there was for that stop. But again, over and over again, 2 years after worldwide protests against police brutality, we're sitting here talking about, what exactly led the police to kill another young unarmed Black man. I think the philosophy of not knowing, throwing money at the problem and not really specifying how that's actually going to fix it has been the crux of the criticisms of the continued increases in funding to these departments. And so, we can hope that this will continue to push the conversation forward. But, I think the disbandment of the unit is certainly, a new response that we haven't seen that sort of swift response. But again, it was, only after they released the body cam footage of what was truly a horrifying and disgusting beating that obviously killed an innocent man.
And am I to understand this police chief, this is a black woman running the police department, this is it's their Democratic leadership in the city, and this is the response. This feels like that tale as old as time, Democratic Party response to double down and try to out-conservative conservatives. We see this kind of result. And you mentioned that the metric of success was number of stops. We've seen how that, as a kind of motivating goal, has led to so much disaster and so many efforts by cities to basically earn money and recoup fees by stopping people, pulling over usually poor or low-income working-class people for traffic stops so that they're caught in a cycle of fines. That's exactly what happened in the Philando Castile case, and it's tragic that kind of motive is still driving police forces to date. Thank you so much for joining us, Akela.
Thank you for having me.
We'll have more Rising for you right after this.